Welcome back. Welcome back to the Where It Goes There podcast. I went with a short intro today.
Yeah, I was like,
get right into it.
Where's the video?
10 toes down. We jumping right into it. I thought it was a little lengthy. I got to edit it and cut it down.
I'm sitting here like this, thinking I got a whole 30 seconds. And I got time.
Yes, sir.
Cool. That's good.
Yeah, man. Welcome back to the Fantasy Waiver Wire. This your boy Tubby. With me is Lee. As always, the other half of the Fantasy Waiver Wire. You never know who you can see on here with us, but we will be the main two. And yeah, man, we just following along on this journey with us as we go through our fantasy football league, our personal fantasy football league that we are both in, and the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs on our way all the way to the championship, man. You come stop by, get advice from us the best we can. We're just like you, just a couple of dudes playing fantasy football, and just love it just as much as you do, man. And this is why we do it, man. Coincidentally, I'm playing my co-host this week, Lee.
It had to happen.
Barn burner matchup.
I know it had to happen sooner or later. We got 2-0 versus 0-2.
Yeah, but it's fantasy. Anything can happen. What's up, Lee?
Hey, what's going on? You're right about the, just two guys talking about fantasy football. We've had a lot of people that have come on the stream since we've been here. And, we don't pretend to be experts, because to me, I think that there is no real such thing as a fantasy expert. There's a couple of guys that are really good at knowing the players and stuff like that. But an expert, it's just like you got so many of these guys, one after the other, that are doing the TikToks and their YouTube channel. And we're just in there just trying to make some friends and help each other out in fantasy. As long as my league isn't watching this and getting tips off of me, I'm cool. I'll help anybody else out that I can. So yeah, it's good to be here. And you're right, we got to play each other this week. So this will be fun. I don't feel great. I mean, I'm 2-0. But I think the longer you stay undefeated, the more you're just waiting for this. Okay, is this going to be the week that somebody knocks me out? And then I got dealt a blow just before we went live with I lost Ayuk for tonight. Mm-hmm. He is out with a shoulder injury, so I had to scramble. I put in Lockett as a sub. I'm lucky. I do have some decent wide receivers on my bench, so I may change that. But right now, to get Ayuk out of the lineup, so I don't go 0 points, I put in Lockett. So this year, like you said, it is crazy the amount of injuries and season-ending injuries that we've had, and it really affects a lot of matchups going into week 3.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Now, I wouldn't have mind if you kept Ayuk in the starting line, but you weren't obligated to do that.
Yeah,
take a 0.
I had my eye on it. I've been watching it all week, especially when he went out, last week, because he had a really great week 1 for me.
Yeah.
And then last week he got hurt and he was limited. He had a decent day. So I was keeping an eye on that. I just hope he gets healthy, because I do think he's solid. He's consistent. Oh, yeah. He's not going to throw up 30 points a week, but he may get me 15 points consistently. And that's rare in fantasy football. It's good to have those guys that score 30, but they don't score 30 every week. Sometimes they score 30 and then sometimes 0. So it's nice to have that. I know I'm going to get 15 points from Ayuk because he gets a lot of targets,
mm-hmm.
and that adds up in a PPR league, especially. So yeah,
for sure. I don't know if you saw, man, that last week Deebo Samuel was benched. I mean, that just shows you how good Ayuk was playing at the time when you go ahead and bench Deebo, yeah. Samuel of all people. So that was really telling. Man, I know you heard the news about Diggs.
Yes,
tearing his ACL. We're Eagles fan, but we're not celebrating it. We don't celebrate that. But how do you think that's going to affect, keeping it fantasy related, how do you think that's going to affect the Dallas Cowboys defense, man, going forward? They've been really dominant past couple weeks. How do you think that's going to disrupt their game?
It's going to be tough, because when you've got a guy like Diggs and then Gilmore on the other side, it gives you a luxury of not even needing to double team their best receiver in a lot of cases. So with Diggs out, they're going to be picking on that replacement corner, whoever it is. I don't know that much about the Cowboys to know who their backup corner is. We're going to find out soon. I don't think it's going to hurt them this week against they got Arizona, so it's not whatever. It's not a big deal. So it'll give us a chance to look at who they're going to be sending out there. Arizona, to me, I can't even believe they went up on the Giants last week and then they just crumbled. I don't have any really enthusiasm for that team at all. So I think they'll be fine this week. But then I think they have the 49ers the week after that.
Mm.
So in the big games when you need your corner. So in my opinion, Dallas is playing really good football, but they haven't played anybody that I would consider a good team. I don't consider I know they went to the playoffs last year, and I'm not ragging on the Giants fans. Eagles throttled them in 3 games last year. A lot of teams did. They went 2-7 to end the season. So if you're a Giants fan, I'm sorry. This is just
Mhm.
it's just facts. They're not a great team. They had a really good first half of last season. They beat a kind of bad Vikings team in the playoffs to get a playoff win, but coming into this year, I didn't really see them improve anything other than Adam Waller. So Cowboys beat them up. Then they beat a Jets team that just lost Aaron Rodgers and has no offensive line. So I think the 49er game in 2 weeks is where we're really going to see if this Dallas team is good. They win that game, then I will definitely go, hey, they're contenders. Even if they stay with the 49ers and lose a
Right.
close one, I'll give them credit. I will. But I'm not ready to until that game. So
Yeah, man. The Cowboys have won 12 games the past 2 seasons. So them winning games is not going to be anything new. And I think they'll still be able to win. But man, Diggs gives them that dynamic. Like you mentioned, man, you can almost have, I'm not going to say you can have Diggs on an island, but with Lattimore on the other side, man, it really looks like, kind of how the Eagles have it with Slay and, oh my goodness, who's our other corner that's hurt right now?
Bradbury, but he's going to come
Bradbury.
back. He's going to come back. They say he's got a really good chance to play Monday because we got the long week.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't play the Thursday night, so it looks like Bradbury and Reed Blankenship will be back. But our slot corner, Avonte Maddox, had surgery today to repair a torn pectoral muscle, so he is out for the season. So it's the same thing like with Trayvon. I definitely wasn't doing backflips. I was more along the lines of just mouth. What? Oh man, happened in practice too. Tore ACL, out for the season. And it's like, yeah, same. You just never know who it's going to hit. And don't get me wrong, the Eagles got both their starting corners. That could change at any time with injuries. But Avonte Maddox is a big part of that defense.
Oh, yeah.
He is a nickel corner that is very key to covering that middle and covering the passes that are short and out of the slot.
Mm-hmm.
So replacing him, whether it's Josh Joby that comes in and does it or somebody else, it's not going to be easy for the Eagles
And he can tackle.
Yeah.
That's something I say you can teach tackling. I don't know, man. I think tackling is about will.
Yeah.
I really do, man. I think you have to want it. When Brian Dawkins said, I'm going to take his soul. That's something that's in you. And he played like it. He will straight run through. So what I'm gonna do is, man, since we're playing each other this week, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the preview of this week's matchup. We'll get right into it. Like I said, man, your boy Lord Vader playing Hurts When I Pee, number 1 in the league right now, back-to-back high score. So, but I still have a 50% chance to win.
You do,
according to Yahoo. So you're telling me there's a chance, man. As you mentioned earlier, Lee, having Ayuk going down is a big plus for me. Is a big plus for me. Take definitely some points off the board with Ayuk being out. I mean, 32 points and 7 last week, but on average, he's doing this thing. And I don't know when he got hurt in that game, as far as the stats go. But you see 8 for 8, 129, and 2 tutties. That is that's good work, man. So I do have DK Metcalf. That's one of my problems right now. He left the game last week with some rib injuries, but he came back. But you know how when you rest and it gets a little sore, it may hurt a little more when that adrenaline goes down. I hope he plays, but I don't know if you noticed that I did have to bench DK Metcalf. And the person that I put in was the person that I've been pushing the whole time. And that's been Nico Collins. I'm out there with Houston. That's my biggest switch this week. You can see the past 2 weeks. He got 14 the first week, monster week the second week with 27. So hopefully he continues that effort, man. He's obviously the guy. 20 targets over 2 weeks, 10 on average. That's exciting. I don't know how. The only thing I don't feel comfortable about is that I have 2 Houston players in my starting lineup. So if Houston gets dragged by the Jags, man, I'm in trouble. So but what I'm depending on is that they'll be down.
Right.
And when you're down, just like Kirk Cousins did last week, you say Kirk Cousins had a game. Kirk Cousins was down. He had no choice but to air it out. Like they had no choice but to air it out. They didn't even run. They had 50 yards on the Eagles last week. So because you couldn't run it, so you had to pass it, man. I just hope for one of those situations, man, with Pierce on this side. How you liking your team this week?
Well, it's tough. Of course, the thing, part of the reason you're 0-2 is, of course, that first game for Mahomes, you got Mahomes and Kelsey, and that was strategic because of the points that they bring. And the first two games, that's not lived up to the potential for you because of Kelsey not playing in week one. Then they were kind of in a defensive dogfight with Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's a good team. So, but this week, they've got Chicago, which doesn't bode well for me because Chicago's not doing anything offensively right now. So that means that the Chiefs are going to, and defensively, it's not really anything inspiring. So I think that and it's at home. I mean, it really bodes well for you as far as those two guys. So I'm at a disadvantage of quarterback for sure. I got Cousins. I got Herbert on the bench. I haven't decided who I'm going to start in this game. Cousins is getting the edge right now because he's at home, and I think it's going to be a shootout either way. And I like the Cousins to Jefferson matchup. I like what Jordan Addison has been bringing to the table. So I'm kind of leaning toward Cousins in that respect. I talked about Ayuk, so I'm going with Olave, who's been really good for me, solid so far, and I think Lockett will be fine. They're playing at home against Carolina. Carolina's got a decent pass defense, but I really just don't have a lot of choices on that. So running backs, McCaffrey and Pollard, always going to be solid for me. So going up against Etienne and Pierce, I think I probably have the edge there. Wide receivers, I'd say probably a push when you look at the projected. You got the edge of the tight end. Flex, it's almost a push. It depends on what Nico does, and it really depends on how many carries Swift gets. I think if they don't give him 20 carries against Tampa Bay, even though Gainwell is back, I think that the Eagles are going to be making a big mistake. Gainwell's good back, but Swift showed on that game Thursday night that he's got really good cutback skill, really good burst through the hole. So they'd be silly to not give him at least 20 carries or more. So we'll see what happens with that, and of course, kicker defense is what it is. I don't even worry about that too much. Right. You never know what you're going to get out of that. But I think it's fairly even matchup. Like we've projected 144 to 144. So even though I'm 2-0 and you're 0-2, I think it's going to be a really one that we're going to be watching all Sunday.
Yeah. I think you have some favorable matchups. I know, Patrick Mahomes is going against Chicago, but the Kansas City defense is as well. If that offense continues to struggle, you have Kansas City defense. You have both quarterbacks in this matchup. You have Herbert, and you also have Cousins.
Yeah.
But if you look at this little note right here next to the Chargers, it says the Chargers gives up the second most fantasy points to the quarterback position. So I mean, this is another plus of a day. You're going against, it looks like the second weakest pass coverage in the league right now, man. But I definitely think it's going to be a shootout. You have Tyler Lockett. I have DK Metcalf. If Metcalf is healthy, I may start him. And then I'm back to like I was last week when I had Mike Williams going up against Keenan Allen. And I'm praying all the touches go to Mike Williams. So, yeah, man. Like we got a question in the chat.
We do. And anybody that does have a question, this is the time to ask it because we're going to be here till about 8:00 tonight before the Thursday night football game. You got to get your lineup set up and you're concerned. And you should be, it is the day before and you got all those second guessing things going on. So make sure you put your questions in the chat and that's what we're here for, to be able to help you answer them.
Yeah,
so what's the question?
Bring that bad boy up. I really can't see it. Can you bring it up?
Oh, I can bring it up. Sorry about that. My bad. I thought you were going to do that. Basically, this is Eric Barreto. He's asking a difference from the tight end position, Waller or Hunter Henry. So this week. Now, look at the matchup. They're both in a tough defensive matchup. Waller in the Jets tonight, and so he needs to know soon, against the 49ers, probably gonna a really good defense. And then you got Hunter Henry going against the Jets defense. So
I'm starting Waller in my 12-man league.
Okay.
I have him and Zach Ertz, so I'm starting him tonight. Just to see what type of, see who he becomes in New York, because I know what he did for the Raiders, but how well would he play for New York? So we have Darren Waller here, 6-6 the first week, 13-6 second week, but more importantly, the matchup going up against San Francisco. That's where that's where the smoke comes. It's like, man, if you seen what the Cardinals defense was doing to the Giants last week, what do you think the 49ers defense? Like the Giants aren't making that same comeback they did last week against the Niners that they did against Arizona.
Exactly.
So you got Waller there. Let me look at the other.
Henry's had a pretty good season so far. I mean, only 108 yards, but he's got 2 touchdowns. So he is kind of the guy that Mac Jones is looking to, because the thing I like what the Patriots are doing, even though they're 0-2, is that they're getting the ball out really quick, and that's a Belichick trait. They did that with Brady, and it really gave the Eagles fits, covering defensively, because it was like snap, bam. So they really couldn't get to Mac Jones a lot. The problem is that it limits your ability to go downfield because you can't wait for guys to get open.
Right.
So this benefits Henry but both of them really have tough defensive matchups. We know how good the Jets defense is, but I think that when you're a tight end, it benefits you when you're going up against these really good defenses, because then you're the one guy that just might be open. So I can kind of see the argument for Waller, because I think tonight, I think the 49ers are probably going to steamroll the Giants. Again, no offense, Giants fans. It's a 10-point spread. And so that may mean that there's going to be a lot of air in the ball out tonight. I don't know how well Matt Breida is going to be doing on the ground without Saquon Barkley there. So that tells me everything leans to where Waller could be seeing a lot of targets tonight. So if you're in a PPR league, he may be the one to go to. It's a tough call. You're lucky to have both of them right now because they're both playing good ball. Well, now Waller's,
it says, read on the screen, it says New York gives up the 7th most fantasy points to the tight end.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah. The Eagles are number 1, and Miami, which is my defense, is 2nd. Man, I may need a change. Boy, this is bad, man.
You got to take that into consideration then. So we just screwed you all up, Eric, because that's a very important point. I mean, take it for what it is. I do lean toward Waller only because I think he's going to see a lot of targets tonight.
Right.
And if you're in a PPR, I think that'll benefit him, because I think that San Francisco will clamp down on the wide receivers.
Right.
And they're going to stop the running game. So,
and when we talk specifically fantasy football, all those little, all the differences matter. So like you can have a good corners, but do you have good linebackers to cover the tight end? Do you have that safety help to help cover the tight end? When it comes to San Francisco, it says San Francisco's gives up the 12th fewest points to the tight end. So it's like, if you're judging off of like the stats, I guess you go with Waller. I think they'll be down. How about this? Tonight, I'm picking Waller. Here's why. One, they're coming off of a short week, man, and a nice comeback win. So they're feeling themselves right now. I know they're playing the Niners, but man, if you make that comeback like the Giants did, you got to be feeling yourself. And I think Waller may get more touches because Saquon is hurt as well too. So you lose some catching out of the backfield with Saquon gone. And he's just a really dynamic player, man. But consistency-wise, Hunter Henry is playing better, and he's playing the Jets this week. And that rivalry is serious. So that those games can get pretty crazy, man. But I just don't really trust Zach Wilson to spread the ball. I just don't trust not Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. I gotta give Mac his credit. He's been playing well this year. Mac Jones has been playing well this year. I remember last year we were talking when the whole Zappy thing was going on. Remember, I was like, man, I think they're treating Mac Jones pretty harshly, man. And now Zappy's nowhere to be found. And, he's had a solid year. I mean, if you see this, 2 tutties a week. Dang. I'm with you, Lee. I may be confused here as well, too, man. It's hard to.
And he needs to know now, because it's kicking it off in less than an hour. So,
yeah.
Looking at Waller's stats, I mean, he had a really tough week against Dallas, but everybody did on the Giants team.
Right.
Last week, the Giants started off really slow, and he ended up with 8 targets, 6 receptions for 76 yards. He hasn't found the end zone yet, but Hunter Henry has. So I think I've talked myself into Hunter Henry, looking at the statistics and the fact that Hunter Henry's found the end zone. I'm not a big believer in Daniel Jones, so I'm biased as an Eagles fan, but it is what it is.
No, I'm not mad
Any
at that.
Anybody else have any other questions going into tonight, setting your lineups? This is probably the last time we'll be on before the games on Sunday. So now's the time to ask. If you want to look at our matchup a little bit more, we can do that as well. But discussing our matchup, I do think that yeah, I went running back heavy, and that's benefited me because I'm
Mhm.
sitting there with Pollard, McCaffrey, and Swift. So you gotta love that. It's just in the receiver portion, I got Lockett, which is serviceable in Olave. So they're not Jefferson, he's not Hill, but it's gonna hopefully be adequate enough to win some games this year. So it's gonna be fun. I don't like going up against Mahomes or Kelsey anytime. So
Right, right.
just a
And
little
I heard Kelsey invited Taylor Swift to the game, so I hope he shows out
oh my gosh.
because of
Yeah,
it.
that's the thing. I mean, I am personally hoping that he ends up in a song by the end of the season, and then it just wrecks him. Now, I don't wish the Kelsey any problem.
Mhm.
I love
Yeah,
the Kelsey brothers, but maybe if the Eagles are in the Super Bowl again this year against the Chiefs, that would help. We got
yeah.
another question from D2 Shields 98. Fields or Love thoughts this week? Uh, I can jump right in. I'm not starting Fields until he shows me anything. Jordan Love they lost, but he had a decent enough game. What's his numbers right now? It's not pretty in the Yahoo leagues.
So for Justin Fields, we have 18-5 week 1 and 13 points in week 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, just not good all the way around, man. And these weren't ridiculously tough teams. They played Tampa and they played Green Bay. You
Yeah.
know, two teams that, you could arguably win. But we look at Love. I'm definitely going with I agree with Lee. Just off the top of my head, man. I'm going right now. Seems like his confidence is a little shaken up right now. And he's, talking about his coaching and he has too much information and, yada, yada, yada. But this the NFL, baby. You gotta put up, man. So you look at Jordan Love. This is why this is easy, man. Jordan Love in one game has more than Justin Fields in 2 games combined. He's playing, from fantasy aspect, he's playing really well. No touchdown. I mean, no interceptions on the season so far. Yeah, 3 touchdowns a game, and 35 points, man. That's that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going with Jordan Love. Even though they play New Orleans,
Yeah, that's what I was
who
gonna mention. Yeah.
who give up the third fewest points to this position. So he's going to have a little toughness, but they're at home. They're not at New Orleans, so that helps. You don't have to deal with that New Orleans crowd.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be in Green Bay. First home game of the year for Jordan Love. I wonder how that changes his gameplay. Because you're on the road. Sometimes it's like, all right, cool, it's easy. But when you come home, there's a lot of expectations for Jordan Love this year.
Right.
But this is the first time the fans are going to see him this year. And I don't think they're going to boo him within 10 minutes of seeing him like they did Jalen Hurts, which
Right.
I still thought was goofy. I'm like, man, you booing this. I don't think they was booing Jay. I think they were booing the offensive play calls.
Play call, yeah.
But I was just like, man, that's Philly for you. The last time you've seen this team, they were going to the Super Bowl. And within 10 minutes in the first quarter of you seeing them again, you're booing. Unbelievable. That's Philly for you, though, man.
So
That is Philly.
I want to say one thing about this thing that to D Shields, as far as the New Orleans only given the third fewest fantasy points. It's early in the season, so that these can kind of get conflated. You have to remember that New Orleans was playing Bryce Young this past week for Carolina, and it wasn't the best performance by a rookie. He struggled a little bit, and they did put a lot of pressure on him. So I think Love is going to handle that a little bit better, especially at home. So the alternative is you got Fields going up against the Kansas City defense.
Right.
And Fields, to me, if you've watched any of the highlights from last year to this year, he's looked lost, and he's blaming his coaches for his difficulties and everything like that. So it's one of those things where I'd lean toward Love for sure, heavily lean toward Love in this matchup. All right.
Yeah, I agree.
We got a trade here to discuss. This is from Super CNB Challengers. He just got offered Higgins or Debo. Debo's probably better than that. And then and Kenneth Walker for CD in a PPR. So 2-for-1 deal.
Hmm.
Me personally, I'll let you go because I'll do this real quick. Looking at it right off the surface without going into the numbers, I would say Debo and Walker for CD. I would take that. I think it depends on where you're sitting for running back and wide receiver help. Because if you're running back poor, then Walker's going to help you out. He's I think as the season goes on, he's going to get better. So it all depends on where you're sitting. I like Debo, especially with Ayuk being banged up, because Jennings is not going to get as many targets as Ayuk would have. Kittle maybe might improve a little bit in targets. So I think Debo is going to benefit from Ayuk's injury, depending on how long it lasts. He's out this week. So I like Debo. He's always dynamic. CD is solid, of course. He's that number one guy for Dak Prescott. So it's good to have, but this is I think a valuable trade. I think you kind of both win in this, in my opinion. What do you think, Tubby?
What concerns me about Higgins, I would take probably Debo over Higgins because we don't know the status of Joe Burrow. Like, he's walking around with the sleeve. He had the sleeve on, not the sleeve, but he had a sleeve on his leg. Walking to practice today. That's the only problem out there is he's going to be Burrow dependent. When it comes to that, man, I think CeeDee Lamb, man, he's just their workhorse, man. He's a monster. He's an incredible athlete. I think I'm gonna have to agree with you here, man. I think with Debo and Kenneth Walker for CD, I think you guys both win as well too. I think it's so tough, man. It's so tough. But I'm definitely probably would take Debo and Kenneth Walker for CD personally, just because I don't know what's going on. And I'll tell you what, if the Bengals go 0-3, 0-4, 0-5, they may think about sitting Burrow. If he's not healthy, he's the highest paid player in the NFL history. And they have to protect that asset, man. And going 0-3 is not a good look when you just paid a person more money than anybody has ever made and you throw for 82 yards in your first game. As being the highest paid player in NFL history, 82 yards. So along with that and the injury, man, there's no telling what's going on in Cincy. But I do like Higgins and Debo hasn't been that great yet this year. Like I said, we mentioned when we opened up that Debo was benched in our league.
Right.
So
but then Ayuk got hurt and he came back in off the bench and pull up his numbers, but Debo's going to get his. I've had Debo in the past in fantasy and he's going to get his. So yeah, no problem. Thanks, dude. Good luck with it. I'd say I'd ask for Debo, just me and Walker, but Walker and Debo for CD. I mean, yeah, CD had a big game this last weekend, but if you look at the Dallas schedule, they are going to play a lot of tough teams. Don't look into too much of what's on the Yahoo or whatever fantasy as far as the defensive rankings right now. They have a tough schedule. They have like the second or third toughest schedule in the league. That's going to affect whatever CD gets you. So we have an interesting question here from R Marts 4. Do you play Danny Dimes tonight against the San Francisco defense? And his other options are Baker and Stroud. So I'll let you go first on this one, and then I'll give you my opinion.
Sure. I think Danny Dimes, man. I think he's playing against a tough team tonight, man. I think they're going to get after him, man. Both of them, they're going to get after. If Arizona was able to get to him, and if Dallas was able to get to him, they're going to get after him, man. Because the Eagles right now, I hate to say this, but because the Eagles have so many injuries in the secondary, and Mike Evans is playing really well, and he's a really big target, man, in our safeties, we need help all around in our defense secondary. I would probably play Baker Mayfield because the Eagles have given up points to every quarterback. Mac Jones, great game. Kirk Cousins, got 53 last week?
Yep.
So, man, I may have to go with Baker here. Yeah, that's just me. It'll be Baker or Danny Dimes, man. But I would probably see what Baker Mayfield does this weekend. Roll the stats too.
Out of those three, you can bring them up. Baker's having a decent year, but matchup wise, and I hate to talk about our Eagles this way, but that's exactly what I was going to say. Reed Blankenship is coming back from an injury. James Bradbury is coming back from an injury. There's not even guarantee those two guys are gonna play on Monday night. There's no guarantee. It looks favorable, They lost Avante Maddox to torn pectoral. So the Eagles secondary is really hurting. So that really, and I think Baker, it's on the road Monday night. Baker's at home. You know that cocky son of a bitch going to want to show out on Monday night. He may not, but the dude is, one thing he does have is he likes the attention. And I think it's going to be a better game than a lot of people think. I think the spread is Eagles by 5.5. I think it's going to be a better game than most people think. And I think Baker could probably throw for a couple or 3 touchdowns in this game, possibly. I think it's going to be a offensive shootout, in my opinion. So we'll see.
You know, a lot of the good points you're making is that it's really early in the season. So we don't really know. You know, you see he played against Minnesota, you know, still had a solid game, you know, 2 tutties, 173, but we played Minnesota too. And we're like, you know, they're solid. But with Chicago, I think they had the ball so much that these are the numbers that you can produce if you have the ball just all the time. He's making some key runs and he's back to running his mouth a little bit, saying people small and stuff like that. Baker's clowning, man. But yeah, man, I'm going with Baker on that one. Just how the Eagles secondary is struggling right now.
Yeah. Next one is Vision. He's got a pick one standard league flex spot. So here's our choices: Jacoby Myers, Swift, Scary Terry McLaurin, or Christian Watson. So that's, as you like to say. I'll let you go first on this one too. I know who I would pick, but
if I'm picking one, I'm going with Swift.
Yeah.
You know, this is because Christian Watson, I don't even know if he's done much yet this year. I know he was injured the first game. Didn't really track him the second game. I can bring that up.
Yep.
I mean, Scary Terry is always a formidable option. Howell's playing well in Washington. Jacoby Myers, I think he's out this week with the head injury, or was that just last week? It looks a lot of this stuff up too. So just off the top of my head, man, I'm going DeAndre Swift.
Yeah. You know, McLaurin had 16 points against Denver last week, but they're playing Buffalo in Buffalo, so that's not a favorable matchup. We got to look at Swift as far as what are the Bucs run defense like. We don't really 100% know. We know a lot of people are saying don't start Swift for a couple of reasons, and I'll go over those. Like, we'll play devil's advocate. A lot of people are saying that don't start Swift because Gainwell's back and there's going to be a running back by committee. I call BS on that. Just saying, if the Eagles do a platoon system like that, they're crazy after Swift just went for 175. Swift should get guaranteed 20 plus carries. The second thing a lot of people are saying don't start Swift is that the Bucs run defense is great. Well, look who they played. Minnesota and Chicago, right? Madison's not that great a running back. So, I mean, I could probably stop Madison a couple times, just one-on-one. I'm just saying, it's those kind of things. So judge the opponents on whether they're a great run defense or not. We really don't know. So I think with the Eagles offensive line opening holes for Swift, we're going to see how good the Bucs run defense really is. So that's who I would lean to, would be Swift out of those. I think, and it's standard especially, and you're not worried about PPR, I think that definitely Swift is probably the way to go.
Yeah, man.
The only thing I worry about Swift, because I have him in my league and I'm playing him against you, is the tush push. Because around the goal line against Minnesota is frustrating. Swift would go down at the 1, and he's not getting the ball for the touchdown. That was killing me because you knew that they were just going to sneak that bitch in. So hopefully that doesn't happen a lot to you, but I'd still say it's a good spot to start.
Yeah, I'm going Swift on that one. So further notice.
All right, we got another question from D Shield just to follow up here. Took a gamble and grabbed Josh Taylor this week. I mean, Jonathan Taylor. Probably.
Yeah, I'm sure he means Jonathan Taylor. I can answer this question because I'm in the same situation as you are. Luckily for you was able to pick him up, but I drafted him. So let me go to my team real quick, and I'll show you exactly where I have him. Right here, I got him on the IR. So it's not a wasted spot to me in our league because we have this IR spot. So my strategy was to pick him up, sit him on the IR. And when he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, it's all good. I don't think it's a wasted spot. I did see him practice a few times. He looks healthy. I think it's just a matter of contracts at this point. I don't think it's if Taylor is healthy or not. I think he wants to be paid. And as you can see what happened to, players around the league, man, it's a lot of injuries around the league. I don't blame him for wanting to get paid for what he's done for that organization, man. carried them during the years when they had Wentz at the quarterback and when he went off, and I think he won offensive MVP that year. But they couldn't get really anything out of the passing game. He's been their bell cow, man. I don't see why there's that many disputes when it comes to Jonathan Taylor, with them paying him. But I don't think it's a wasted spot. No, especially if you have a IR spot in your league. And yeah, man, most of the people that are hurt are coming back. So even if you had to switch it out, it wouldn't be for too long. So I say, man, wait it out. I think he's worth the wait. That's really all it is for me. He's worth the wait. What you think?
I wholeheartedly agree. Unless you're hurting and you really need that spot for waiver picks to try to get the hot guys every week, but leave him on the bench and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
I'm not 100%. I mean, I think that it may last the whole season. We'll see after he's off the pup list if they come up with like I see that if I look into my crystal ball, I see that the Colts will probably give him a 1-year offer, or no extent, like with what he wants as far as the
Right.
salary, just to get him in, and then either try to trade him or be done with it after the season. But we'll see.
I'll tell you one thing. As you look up here, he is rostered in 97%
There you go.
of the league. And you can't even cut him. He's on the can't cut list. So I don't the fact that he was still on your waiver and you were able to pick him. I don't know if you made a trade when you say you took a gamble. I don't know if you made a trade and got Taylor. But if he was on your waiver, then wow.
That's good stuff. Back to the Jacoby Myers thing, just to follow up on that. He did have a concussion week 1, sat out week 2. Looks like he is probably going to play this week. He had 29 fantasy points in Yahoo leagues. The week 1, he had 81 yards receiving, 10 targets, 2 touchdowns. Great game at Denver, going up against Pittsburgh at home. Again, I'm biased. One of the things I do when I play fantasy, and this is just me, I base my selections on who the quarterback is when I'm doing wide receivers. And I'm not a big Garoppolo fan. Some people are. So I think that 29 points looks really good, and it makes you want to start him again. But I would wait and see what the consistency level is on Jacoby Myers. I like really good, accurate quarterback passers when I'm picking a wide receiver. So that's just what I look for when I draft. So anyway, just following that up. All right. We got another question from Vision, so we'll go ahead and let him follow this up. Who should he start at wide receiver? He's got 2 spots available. Puka, I'd say must start. Pickens, Terry, Watson, and Myers if playing. And like I said, they're on track. So I would definitely say Puka. Me personally, I would say Puka, and Pickens has Vegas. I think that's not maybe not be a bad thing. I'm again going back to the quarterback issue. I'm not sold on Kenny Pickett, and that worries me as far as what the numbers those receivers are going to put up this year, because I don't know what they've gotten him. He really struggled against Cleveland. They shouldn't have won that game. The defense won them that game with the turnover. He didn't show me a lot, so I would worry about that. Puka definitely a must start. He is burst onto the scene, so that's a must start. The others, you got Terry McLaurin. Who is Washington playing this week?
Washington. Let me see if I'm lucky enough to have anybody on my roster with Washington.
Yeah, I don't have anybody from Washington, and Sam Howell's not playing bad. So they're playing Buffalo at home. So, but Buffalo's defense again after 2 weeks looks pretty solid. So on the pass side, the stat says that Buffalo gives up the 6th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers after 2 weeks. So,
I'm definitely. Oh, my bad.
I'm just saying I like what Terry McLaurin did in week 2. He had 16 points, but I mean, for me, it's a toss up between Pickens and McLaurin. What do you think?
So what I'm going to do here, if I'm starting Pickens this week myself, but if I was you, I would start Puka, and if Jacoby Myers is playing, and it looks like the coach said he's trending the right way to play, I'm probably going with that combo. 29, 10 targets. This is with Devontae Adams on the field, and he's still got 10 targets. I'm taking, if Jacoby Myers is healthy, I'm taking the healthy Jacoby Myers and Puka for my 2 slots this weekend. I still want to see a little bit more out of Pickens as well. So I just want to, because even though he had a monster game last week, he had 4 catches. He just took one to the house, made a nice move and took off with it. So 4 catches is still alarming. And I just don't really understand what Pittsburgh's trying to do on offense right now. And with Deontay Johnson down, that does help you, but I'm picking Puka and Myers. If Myers isn't healthy, then I'm going Pickens.
Okay.
Now, you know what? Pickens. But I will say this, man. Howell looked solid later on in that game last week, and he was throwing the ball well. Yeah, man. So final answer, Puka and Myers.
I would concur on that. You might as well give him a shot if you got that second wide receiver spot if he's healthy. They've got a decent matchup. So yeah, I think that with playing Pittsburgh, if Pittsburgh plays nearly as bad, that could be a problem for them, for Pittsburgh, and leaving Vegas on the field a lot. So yeah, Puka and Myers, we agree on that one. All right, we're getting down to it. About 20 more minutes to go before it's Thursday night football. So we're going to take this question from Draco Juiced, and he's asking Dameon Pierce or Breida. I'll let you go first on this one.
Me, I'm standing. I have Pierce personally.
Yep.
I'm just letting you know. Personally, I have Pierce. So, and I am starting him this week. Breida, I think in short, Pierce. That's my short answer. Pierce, he's the starter. Breida, you don't know what you're going to get out of Breida. Breida's one of those guys, yeah, you can pick him up, but you want to see how, because some offenses will adjust when they lose their star player. They'll maybe go through somebody else, like I mentioned Waller earlier. But over the last 2 games, not much, but that is with backing up Saquon. So you have to, it's all relative when it comes to Matt Breida. We remember from the San Francisco, there was he at San Francisco for a little bit, and then Miami. Yeah, some good times there. Some spur of the moment. He was a backup, but he played well, man. But yeah, I'm going Pierce on this one because I know he's the starter, and I know he will get the ball a lot. I'm not sure if they go running back by committee with Matt Breida. I'm not sure what the Giants will do.
Yeah, he's a hot name in fantasy running back right now as far as filling those gaps with injured players. Breida is.
Right.
But I don't like either of the matchups for these running backs. So let me just say right off the bat, I feel for you on choosing between these two because you're kind of screwed either way. Dameon Pierce has had 6 points in Yahoo leagues and 5 in the second game. He's only had 38 yards rushing in the first game, 31. So it's got to be frustrating for you as an owner because they've had to come from behind and they played in some really dog fights where they've been going to the air a lot. So it's benefited guys like Nico Collins and Pierce hasn't done anything. But I would probably still go Pierce, like Tubby said, only because Breida's going up against the San Francisco defense. It's going to be brutal. Now, you never know. They didn't do very well against Kyron Williams, who went off on San Francisco. So you have to wonder, was that because it was a division rival and they were, LA came out willing to fight. So that could very well happen tonight where you get the Giants with their backs to the wall at 0-2 playing there with probably one of the best teams in the NFL and one of the best defenses. What are they going to do? What is Breida going to do? I know they'd feel much better with Saquon in there. I'll tell you that much. It's going to be a struggle for both these guys. So I would lean Pierce just by a smidge, just because of the matchups. And they're both bad. Right now, Jacksonville's doing well against the run, but again, it's early.
So Jacksonville gives up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to running backs. But mind you, this is 2 games.
Yep.
First game was Baltimore. Oh, no, I don't know who the Jacks played those first couple games. I got to click on Jacksonville. But anyway, they, in the end of the day, they haven't been giving up a lot. I think the Eagles are number 1 or 2. So when it comes to like run stopping, I think the Eagles are averaging like 50 yards a game given up. That's incredible. But it also shows that teams were behind and had to catch up with them. So a game, sometimes a lot of things could be game dependent. But I'm definitely going Pierce. He had a solid season last year. Like I said, Breida, You just don't know. You just don't know what you're going to get out of Breida, but maybe you can get 5 or 6 points from Pierce if this is the situation that you were in and you weren't able to pick up Ford or something like that off the waiver wire. Wasn't lucky enough to have a stash. So yeah, I'm going Pierce with this one, man.
And the thing is, like saying Yahoo leagues and other leagues are showing that San Francisco gives up the 15th most fantasy points to running backs. But the problem with that is, again, we're talking about a 2-week study. Who have they played? They played the Rams and they played Pittsburgh. They played Pittsburgh pretty well defensively, but they gave up a ton of points to Kyren Williams, so that makes things skewed on that kind of side of it. So that would make me feel hopeful, the fact that they gave up a bunch to Kyren Williams, but I'm not ready to trust Breida just yet in that lineup. But
right.
Good luck, and I think that's almost a catch-22. That's a tough one. All right, we got about 15 minutes before we're going to get out of here and watch some Thursday night football. It's not the best Thursday night football game, but I think by halftime, and this is just my prediction, I'll probably be watching it in the background after it's 21-3 or something by halftime. I don't know.
You think this one's going to be over quick, eh?
I do. I hope not. I hope the Giants actually show me that they're still a decent team. I hope, but not because I like the Giants. I don't by any stretch of the imagination. It's just I would like to see San Francisco be challenged. I would. I want to see them. I want to see a tough game. I want to see a good game. They haven't shown me anything. The fact that they had to come from behind against Arizona and shouldn't even have won that game. They played good in the second half, but to me, that's Jonathan Gannon. We had him here in Philly. He loved to give up leads. He loved to we'd like to get a big lead, and then bam, we're back now within 7. So we saw that with Gannon as a defensive coordinator in Philly. So I think they just crapped the bed and just played a lot of safe defenses against the Giants, and that led to a lot of production for Danny Dimes. So,
while we're having him up, this Jayden Reed guy.
Yes.
I think I'm going to put him on my watch list. I just clicked in, put him on my watch list. I'm like, man, this is 2 tutties last week. We'll see. I just want to see where it goes.
Right.
I have more wide receivers than I could even think of. I need some more running backs. I went against my strategy coming into it. Remember we talked like pre-draft and we did the mock drafts. We're like, oh, you really need running back. Man, I really didn't get any running backs in this draft, man, because I really focused a lot of my energy on getting that Mahomes, Kelsey 1-2 punch. So I let a lot of running backs fall to other people, man, and I'm paying for it, man. What I was disappointed about, Lee? I didn't even put in a claim for Ford because I was so low on the waiver wire. I think I was like 8th on the waiver wire. I didn't even put a claim in for Ford, man, and I was just like, give up. But now I'm 3 because I'm gonna wait. Right now I'm gonna wait. No matter what happens this week, there's always going to be that next person that's hot off the waiver wire, and I'm saving my waivers to when I really need them.
I just got a gut punch because I lost Ayuk and I don't in my other league, and I don't have enough backups for him. I'm probably going to be starting Jackson Smith and Jigba this week, even though he's not really shown anything. I had Jayden Reed on my watch list. He got scooped up between an hour ago, and I was waiting to see what happened with Ayuk, to see whether I dropped one of my other backup wide receivers. I did Tank Bell too, and that was just a flashy, bench stash that I had on there, hoping that he did good. And now I'm that's a 12-team league. There's nobody available. Jayden Reed was going to be my best pick. He was going to be a good pick. I would put him right in the lineup this week.
Right.
And I screwed that up.
Man, 12 teams are brutal.
And that's what happens in fantasy. If you don't act quickly, there's always somebody that's going to be watching the same guys you're watching. And I just got taught a lesson.
Is Mac Jones underrated right now? Or is the Philly just help him out?
Well,
with the injuries. I mean, because 40 and 21, I'm like, man, is Mac, are people sleeping on Mac Jones right now?
I've watched both games like intently because, of course, one was Philadelphia and then Miami is my son's team. So I always like watching that with him and kind of text back and forth.
Right.
And like I said earlier, he's getting the ball out quick. It's that whole Bill Belichick 2-second, snap to throw. So he's completing a lot of passes because the defense is giving a cushion. And so they're able to move the ball down the field. The problem that is hurting the Patriots is once they get into the red zone, they have not, like they did against the Eagles. It's kind of when those corners come up a little bit, they don't give them that space anymore, is when they don't tend to convert. And they don't have a running game. Ezekiel Elliott has not done anything for them yet. And Stevenson's just been okay. So it is okay. So we got this from Jeannie. I'm a diehard Pats fan, and Mac Jones is not it. And I would say that he's not the second coming, and he follows that up with he's just an average game manager. That's what I see. So that's why his numbers are where they are. He's getting the ball out quick. He's doing the Bill Belichick, strategy. Boom, boom. And again, once you get into the red zone, he's not able to make those tight windows throws that would get him more points and more touchdowns. So his numbers look good. He is completing passes, but it is a very conservative offense right now with what they've got.
Yeah, I think game manager, can go either way. It can you're 0-2. So as a game manager, 0-2, it looks really bad. But if you're 2-0 and you're a game manager, it's not that bad. So I do see what you mean here is, as far as him on 20 points and 17 the past couple of weeks, 2 L's, but they played 2 good teams.
Yeah.
They played 2 teams with 2, really good offense, or, a lot of potential. And, yeah, man, but I'm scared of anybody that goes up against the Eagles secondary, man. I mean, I may have to take some flyers or some tight ends or something because what Hawkinson did to the Eagles last week was pretty random. Just think about defenses like, man, and the Eagles being up there.
I in my other league, I needed a defense because I had been playing anybody who was playing Arizona. And unfortunately, that didn't work out with me because I had the Giants last week and they got me 0 points. So I abandoned that strategy. But the Dallas plays Arizona this week, so I can't do that whole drop. So I just picked up Kansas City just to have somebody to regular, and then I'll keep looking at the matchups. Philly was available, and I think that they'll get points off of the sacks that they hopefully will generate in the next few weeks. But they have a tough schedule, and they're banged up in the secondary, so I wouldn't touch Philadelphia as a defense right now. I don't think that any of the matchups coming up is going to be favorable to them at all. Their defense, regardless of having, and they got a new defensive coordinator. So, and on top of that, they've got a massively tough schedule. So it's not going to be really good. And so, yeah, Genie HD says he lost both weeks because of Goddard and trap game defenses. Yeah. Goddard didn't do anything in week 1. He had a decent week against Minnesota, but nowhere where we need him to be. So I'm having a hard time struggling with him in my other league. I've got him or Sam Laporta. So it's like, that's going to be a game time decision for me. And I hate that, that I have to put it that way, because it just, until the offense starts clicking for Philadelphia with the new offensive coordinator, it's hard to trust guys other than Devontae Smith or AJ Brown and Swift, of course, but that's the running game. So it's going to be tough to touch Goddard right now.
When it comes to Eagles offense, I think I text you this too, man. I think they're giving old buddy too much credit. Our new OC, man. This looks like the Sirianni offense before Steichen usurped him. I really do. I really do, man. Just kind of stagnant, and then all of a sudden that jump last year where they were throwing the ball to Goddard like 8-10 times a game. Then all of a sudden you don't throw it to him. I'm like, what's going on with that? Yeah. And then even with AJ Brown, why didn't you throw the ball to A? Something is going on. Like, I'm not saying it's like a Justin Fields coaching situation at any point. Like, I don't think Jaden's going to do that. But one thing I think the Eagles aren't getting enough credit for their offense is that the adjustments that they made. At the end of the day, these teams are playing the pass. So what did the Eagles do? We're just going to run it. They asked Jalen, like, you think teams are playing you differently. And he corrected them, like, they're playing us differently. Yeah. Like, it's a whole team out there. And, I think the Eagles have handled what was thrown at them the first couple of weeks pretty well. I don't know if you've seen Jason Kelce speak after the Thursday night game. And he said, we've been seeing defenses we've never seen before.
Exactly.
This is from the center. He knows if something is different. He was like, man, hey, but we still ran the ball on them. We made the adjustments, and they knew we were going to run, and they still couldn't stop it because they know we can still pass it. And then, boop, you blitz us, right? Jalen is facing 51% blitz, and then whoop, right over the top, perfect pass, while the blitz was right in his face. One of the best throws he's made all season, with a guy right in his face, drops a dime to Smitty. And it's just, and you just go, what can we do with these guys? Because AJ can do that. Goddard can do that. Maybe not the long one, but Smitty and AJ Brown can do that. And you have to respect that run game. And if Swift is doing what he did last week going forward, the Eagles are going to be just a head-scratching team. But it's a compliment to the Eagles when you have a center like Jason Kelce. Like, man, the defenses we've seen this year, it's like people are especially trying to stop the Eagles. I mean, Jalen's 19-1 in his last 20 starts. I mean, you wouldn't know that based off the Philadelphia media. You would think he was 1-19, but them's the breaks. But yeah, man, I think they're throwing a lot at Philly. I think this is going to be a week where if they're going to show everything they have, I think Tampa is the team to do it against. I really do, man. Coming off 11 days, a lot to talk about, healing all around. So it's just my little soliloquy on the Eagles.
I'm right there with you. And we're going to get to Priceless Pigeons question here in a second. I do want to say one thing real quick is about that. Like you said, is the Eagles beat the New England Patriots 25-22. And the word out of that was they struggled. Miami beats them 24. What was it? 24-20, something like that. 24. It was close. It was 24-17, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they looked great, apparently, when it was a similar type score. So the Eagles are going to get a lot more scrutiny. The Eagles have played a decent team in the Patriots, not a world beater. They've got to fix some things. They need some really big time wide receiver help. They need a big time running back help. So they got some things they're working on in New England, but they played a decent team in New England and the number one receiver in the league in Justin Jefferson in week 2. And people are slagging on him when they're 2-0. And I get it. You go to the NFC Championship game, their expectations are right here.
Oh yeah.
And in both of those games, when we talk about the way people are playing the Eagles, they're seeing a lot of like 3-man fronts with the fourth man thrown in on the side, and they're strictly covering the pass, like you said. So it does leave the run open. So we'll see how Tampa plays them. I do want to say one of the defenses that's surprising me this year is Cleveland. I know they got Myles Garrett and they got a decent team, but I did not think Jim Schwartz had it in him to blitz as much as he's done and play man coverage. I don't think this is the same Jim Schwartz. I think he's been cloned. He's not the same Jim Schwartz that coached defense in Philly, because I've watched the Cleveland games and he's playing high pressure and he's playing man on the corners and he's driving me up the wall, because that's not, if he would have done that in Philly, they probably would have won with him there. But anyway, and they did win a Super Bowl with him there, but just after that, it's just that crazy zone defense. All right, so Priceless Pigeon, because we're almost out of here. We only got a few more minutes left. He's got Ridley, Nakua, or Devontae Smith. Oh, that's a tough one. Gosh, a wealth of riches. Only one?
My goodness, that is it's an embarrassment of wealth. I mean,
yeah.
Man, who you have to pick, one or two, or how many? Just one?
Devontae Smurf. If it's Devontae Smurf, I'm just kidding.
Is it just? Are you looking for? So the or makes it seem like it's just one. Right now, I'm riding a hot can of Puka. Stafford's a cannon. He's going to throw the hell out the ball. I just think Jacksonville have a few more options besides Ridley with Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk had a good week, and Evans, and also Etienne catch the ball out of the backfield. In short, I'm going Puka until further notice.
Yeah, I know that the Rams are on the road at Cincinnati, and again, they're giving up the 11th fewest fantasy points of the position. I love Devontae Smith and what he can do, and I think that he easily could score 20 plus points in this matchup on Monday night. Or the balls could all go to AJ Brown, especially since he's whining a little bit about not getting any catches. The balls could go AJ Brown's way. We saw a lot of games last year, even though the Eagles were, undefeated for a lot of the season and then went to the NFC Championship game. We saw a lot of games where it was either one or the other. It usually wasn't both of them having a big day. Very rarely did both AJ Brown and Devontae Smith have huge days. It was usually one or the other. They both went over 1,000 yards. And that's kind of the problem when you've got one of those guys, is that it depends on who has a hot hand, is who Jalen Hurts is going to go with. So I agree with Tubby. I would ride the hot hand with Puka Nacua. He's had 21 fantasy points in week 1, 30 in week 2. He's got 2 what has he got? And he doesn't have any touchdowns yet. So he's due against Cincinnati.
Makes it even more impressive.
All right, so Genie HD has one because we got to get out of here.
You
It's
gotta
8
get out.
o'clock.
Yeah.
You got to roll. So we're going to do this
Mm-hmm.
real quick. We answered this earlier. If you didn't hear it, Genie HD, are you crazy for putting in Jordan Love over Fields? No, you're 100% sane. We talked about it earlier. Justin Fields looks lost out there. He's blaming the coaches, and that's scary to me as a fantasy owner. I know you drafted him because he can be dynamic, and he
Mm-hmm.
may get that way again. But Jordan Love is playing a little bit better football, and he's going to probably be more consistent. He's not going to blow you out of the water, but you're taking a chance playing Fields right now because he's struggling. So, yeah, like you said, you just look way more composed. Yeah, and that's what you need right now, especially early. I don't know what your record is, but if you're needing a win right now, if you're 1-1 or 0-2, you need a win, and you can't be gambling on Fields hoping that he will get his head out because they're playing the Chiefs this week, and that's not going to be an easy matchup for him. It's just not. So anyway, that being said, thanks guys for being here tonight and asking your questions. We'll be here. We're usually going to be here every Tuesday and Thursday before the waiver wire and before the first matchups, and then maybe a bonus show throughout the weekend if we can do that as well. So subscribe to the channel if you can, and get the notifications when we go live, and we'll be glad to help you guys out each and every week. This is what we do. It's fun for us and it's fun for you.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
jeez, that's 0-2. Sorry, dude. Yeah, so you definitely need to win. Go with
You,
love.
you like Lord Vader here. You were just like Tubby. But yeah. I want to thank everybody for stopping by the Fantasy Waiver Wire with your boy Tubby and Lee. Just a couple of dudes, man, doing fantasy football just like you, man. Come stop back around Tuesday. Get you ready for those waivers for next week. And again, man, appreciate everybody stopping by. Just like that, we are gone.